Rastov YouTube awesome.
Hey, what's up YouTube, Rastov here, and welcome to my 10 tips and tricks to make hard mode easy for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Today I'm just going to go over a few things that I found made the game a lot easier for me. Now, I haven't beaten the game yet. I'm about 90 hours in and I'm only on chapter 5. And I will try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. So these are just some of the things that I learned along the way that kind of made it a little bit easier or harder if I did, because I didn't know. And I'm just going to go through them with you now. So first things first, I think it's really important, optimize your settings. So for me, a couple of settings that I didn't really get at the start of the game was changing the targeting controls. And again, these are all just what works best for you. So if you try this out and find that you like the other one better. But as you can see, the default is that just selecting enemies using L and R. And what I was finding in some of these battles with multiple characters was that I was using these and it was targeting monsters that were 5 miles away and I wasn't able to hit the monster that I wanted. So I switched it to classic. And then that made things a lot easier. So you can see it reads, push the R button to target the closest enemy. The L button cycles through targets in reverse order. So that definitely made things a lot easier in some of those harder battles, because a few seconds makes a big difference in hard mode battles. You can die very quickly if you're not careful. So that's one setting that I would recommend trying to see if it works for you. Another one, let's see, auto battle. I kind of haven't touched that, but you could. I did try it a little bit, but I mean, even in the smaller battles, I sort of enjoyed it. But if you kind of don't really care about fighting the trash mobs, then yeah, you could turn that one on, and then you pretty much take control in the boss and unique monster battles. Now, one thing I will say is that if you decide to do this from the start, just be aware that you may not have as much experience when it comes to doing art cancels and fusion combos and things like that if you haven't had the practice doing them on the little monsters. So just, you know, do that one at your own risk, but I personally keep it off. So this is kind of the main one. Once you get access to interlinking, which I mean is a story thing quite early on, it defaults to player. So basically what that reads is only interlink the player character. So whatever character you have selected is the one that will interlink, rather than, and then the interlinking of all your allies will be done by the AI. Now, I didn't actually realize this until much later on, that you could actually switch this to party. And when I first read it, I was like, I don't really understand what that does. So I'll go and show you what it looks like having it turned on. Alright, so you can see that we're in combat, and you can see that rather than... So when you do it on the normal one, it just automatically chucks you into the interlinking, and you know, interlinks with whoever your interlink partner is. But when I hit this button, it brings it up like this, and you can see, so I could go, alright, I want Noah to interlink, I want Senna to interlink, and then I want Uni to interlink. Well, I didn't quite get her in time, but you see what I mean? You can do all of them right from that little menu, and that is going to save you a whole bunch of time. Now, one of the reasons that this one is so good is because one of the things that I kind of struggled with is in some of these bigger battles, when you've got tons of monsters and you need to switch to a character quick, this doesn't actually feel that great switching. Like, it's fantastic that we have the ability to do this in game now, because we weren't able to in the other ones. But switching like that, for me personally, it just makes it as if you accidentally overshoot, then you got to go back, and sometimes you can get panicked in some of these fights. So that's a really good setting to have, I think, is just being able to interlink the ones that you need off the bat like that. And the final setting that I will show you is, we kind of just had a look at it again, and this was the overkill. So if you have this turned off, it's going to stop your chain attack once you hit overkill, and that's going to prevent you from getting all of the bonus experience at the end. And one of the tips later on is, you know, it's to do with overleveling. So talk a little bit more about that later. But that's tip number 1. We'll move on to tip number 2. So my second tip is to do side missions. Side missions are a fantastic way of getting experience, SP, gold, rewards, all that sort of thing. They also give you hero quests as well, which unlock new characters that come with you, and in turn new classes that come with you. They're actually quite well written. In some of the other Xenoblade games, a lot of them have been fetch quests. And there are some fetch quests, you know, go out, get X amount, come back. But a lot of them are more involved. Some of them, I won't spoil any of them because I think they're quite cool. A lot of them are voice acted as well, which is quite cool as well, because sometimes you get side quests where it's all just dialogue. So another thing to do aside from these side quests is the COLLECLOPAEDIA cards whenever you can. Now you see there, it does give you a tutorial on how to do these pretty early on, and sometimes it seems like it can be a little bit pointless, but it actually does give you good rewards, especially later on. So you definitely want to jump in and do the COLLECLOPAEDIA cards when you can, and also, yeah, make sure that you're doing the side missions as well. So, oh no, well, you've seen some now. There's a couple there that I've still got to do. So yeah, it's going to be very important to do those. One, because getting more experience is going to be very beneficial on hard mode, because a lot of the fights, so like, I don't consider trash mobs when I talk about this and just regular monsters. I'm talking about uniques and also elites. When you fight these, if you fight them at the level, like if you're on the same level, it's quite a challenging fight, and sometimes they will literally just one-shot your whole party, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So getting a couple of levels isn't going to hurt you too much, and it's going to make the fight a little bit more balanced, because some of these elite monsters and unique monster fights can actually go on for about 20-30 minutes sometimes, depending on how much health they've got. So definitely do the side missions, get more characters. It's just going to make life a whole lot easier for you. Which brings us into tip number 3. Careful of over-leveling. Now, this image that you're seeing in front of the screen is an image I pulled from the internet because I didn't want to show you what mine looks like, because it's spoiler-ridden with lots of different characters and heroes and all that sort of stuff. So basically, while it is important to get a few more levels on the elites and uniques that you're fighting, you also need to be very careful of how far you actually over-level, because the higher level you are, the less like CP and SP that you kind of get from, or class points that you get from the monsters that you fight. So if you get too high a level, you're only going to get 1s and 2s, and you need more to be able to share the classes, because that's what it's based on. So basically, when a class is unlocked, when you get a hero, which you will see, one of the characters in your party will inherit that class innately, which means they can use it from the start. But everybody else has to be present while that person or the hero is in the party. And so what that means is, if you're not getting SP and they're not leveling up, then you're not unlocking the class. And so it can create a bit of a problem. Now, the best way to do that, and this is what I did, I fully admit it's the only time I ever changed the mode to easy, was I ended up being about 20 levels higher than where I was supposed to be. And even 20 levels higher, some of those uniques and elites still were kicking my ass a little bit. So, you know, it's not going to be too crazy. But what I did was I changed my settings to easy, and I went and I fought an elite monster of my own level. And I basically just farmed up experience using the overkill function on chain attacks to, you know, get the very high percentage, and then it would unlock the classes very quick. Then I would switch back to hard mode and carry on playing. So just be careful that if you overlevel yourself too high, it's going to stop you from unlocking classes and leveling up your classes faster. So you're going to be stuck using what you've got. For tip number 4, we've got abuse evasion arts. Now, this is something that was particularly useful for me in the early game. Well, when you're first kind of starting after you get Mio. And we'll just jump in, change it to follow the leader, and I'm going to aggro the monster now. So at the start, you're not going to have a lot of defensive skills. You're going to take a lot of damage. So if we can time this right, he's going to use some sort of bubble breath, earth ball, and then we evaded it using wide slash. Now that's a really important thing to get used to at the start, because your evasion tank is just going to do way more damage than your heavy guard tank. So it's going to pull aggro a lot more. You're going to be taking a lot more hits. Now if you leave the AI to kind of do its thing, it's probably going to die a lot. So, but utilizing the evasion, and you can see there I used her talent art, which dodged the sumo press. Obviously I'm not going to take damage, you know, being level 73, but at the start, believe me, a move like that will almost one-shot your whole team if you're the same level on hard mode. So getting used to hitting these buttons and getting the timing correct on your evades are going to get you some easy unique kills at the start. It's going to feel really awesome when you manage to time it correctly, and you're going to get some, you know, items and knock-on coins and accessories and all that good stuff. So get your practice in. You can see I evaded it there. Even like, you know, even at 68 they take some damage, or 73 they take a bit of damage. So just from a unique, so you can kind of see the value in it. So if you can get it correct, get it right, it's going to make things a lot easier until you can get some of those other heroes at the start. So yeah, good luck. Now tip number 5 is gems, and gems are extremely useful. You'll get them quite early on in the game as well. And one recommendation that I have that I did right at the start was I actually spent knock-on coins, the gold knock-on coins there, and I got myself the Ironclad 4, which increases max HP by 550. So, and I equipped that on everyone. So all of my party having an extra 550 health at the start actually saved me so many times fighting uniques, fighting elites. As you can see, I haven't really done a very good job of farming up stuff to kind of get like better ones yet. But that definitely started off the snowball effect of being able to actually withstand some hits. So some of the ones that I think are really good, and I'll talk about Steady Striker in a little bit, because that's its own tip in itself. Double Strike's really handy. Empowered combo is really handy as well for your damage dealers. Let's see, Disperse Bloodlust is a fantastic one too. You know, reducing aggro generated by your arts is going to be really important. But again, there's another we're going to talk about Steady Striker a little bit more in tip number 6, and then after that we're also going to talk about managing our aggro. So we're going to talk a little bit more about dispersing Bloodlust, but you know, getting some of these are really handy. Boosting aggro generated for your tanks. Starting battle with aggro can be quite handy as well. There's a really fantastic class later on that you'll end up getting, which is primarily around buffing. So getting boosting power of buffs and extending duration of buffs is just a complete godsend. You can see that I do actually need to get some better ones. But even what I've got has been really helpful. This one, Soothing Breath, has been fantastic, reviving allies with more HP, because sometimes what will happen is your AI will revive your character and then they'll die pretty much instantly. So yeah, definitely if you can, jump in and craft as many gems as you can. Take a little bit of time to farm up, and if you do want to spend some golden knock-on coins at the start, I would definitely recommend getting Ironclad as high as you can kind of get it. So I don't really use it too much now, because that much HP doesn't really do a whole lot for me now, but at the start it really was amazing. Steady Striker. This is a tip on its own, because it is such a fantastic gem, and it will take you so far. It will be so helpful for you. I put it on all of my characters and it makes such a huge difference. Now, you might be thinking, why? All it does is shorten your auto attack interval by 30%. Well, as you'll know by playing the game, that the Agnians, they basically charge up their arts by auto attacks, and the Kavesi do it on a timer. But one thing that you also have to realize is that when you fusion combo, it switches around. So you get like Kavesi and also Agnian at the same time. And Kavesi typically have quite a few lower cooldown abilities. So getting those extra hits in are going to be incredibly valuable. Some of the best healers in the game are Agnian, so you're going to want to be able to get those attacks in very quickly to be able to... you know what, we'll show you, we'll show you. This poor indiscreet Gombaba is getting its ass handed to me today. So I'm going to use Lance for this one because the heavy guard attacks extremely slowly. So it's like one hit, one hit, one hit, one hit, one hit. And you can see that it's really slow, like really slow. And if you're attacking slow as a tank, you're not generating aggro as fast as you could be, which means it's highly likely that your damage dealers are going to kind of pull aggro and get themselves killed, and that's what happened a lot for me. So getting this gem, I'm going to put it on now, Steady Striker. It's only 27% at level 6 that I have it, but I'll show you the difference it makes, and it might not seem like much. Might not seem like much, but once I put it on, my tanks are actually holding aggro a lot better. You know, that combined with other gems as well, and I probably wouldn't get this as like a starting gem unless you want it on your healers, because again, it's really good on Agnian healers and getting those shots off quicker. I was waiting for it to respawn and it wasn't going to, so I'll show you what it looks like again, except we've got the gem turned on this time. Oh, and you might be thinking, oh, who's this guy? Who's this little guy? He's not one of the main characters, but he is a hero. You do get him. He's like the first actual story hero that you get, so you get him really early on. So you can kind of see one. So it's definitely a lot faster. Definitely a lot faster. And if you're hitting more, you're generating more aggro. There's also accessories that you can kind of combo with it. Again, I said, you know, with healers, if you switch, he's attacking faster. So look at that. Look at how quickly it's going up. You can pop that off. Pop that off. Already got that up. We killed him. You know, so... Actually, I don't even think he had it on. He already attacks quite fast. But I'll show you, yeah, I'll show you what I mean on a healer. Basically use the gem, okay? Basically use the gem. I will get rid of that. And she's not, get rid of that. See, they've already I haven't really used them since the start, and you can kind of see that all of them had the ironclad. But also Steady Striker does combo quite well with double strike as well. It's, yeah, obviously the more hits you're doing, the more chances you've got to attack twice, and if you're attacking twice, you're generating more aggro, doing more damage, or getting your skills back off cooldown quicker. So but we'll just do the Steady Striker now. I'll get some arts, healing, and we'll take the healing one. Alright, so we use the heal, and it's back. If I don't miss. Boom, already back. Right, so incredibly valuable, especially having in the early game when you need heals. So again, I wouldn't go for it as your first gem. For me personally, getting the health was more valuable, but it's up to you. Our next tip is about managing your aggro. So there are a couple of different ways that you can manage your aggro in the game. Especially on hard mode, it's going to be really important for your DPS or your damage dealer fighters to be able to reduce their aggro gain, because most of the time they're going to be, well, all of the time they're going to be doing more damage than your tank, which means if your tank's also not managing their aggro, your damage is going to die. So some of the ways that we can manage our aggro, there are some classes that have like aggro down skills, so you can use that if it's got it on there. With this one, I generally, so if I was setting up my fighter, I would normally put, depending on which fighter it is, because not all of them are super fast. Sometimes you want to go crits and things like that, but one of the big ones would be Disperse Bloodlust, reducing aggro generated by arts, because arts do a lot of damage. Damage is going to give you aggro, and vice versa. If you're not doing damage, you're not generating aggro. So this is definitely a gem that I would use a lot, especially. So, for example, I won't show you the class that I'm using, but for my Noah at the moment, I have Steady Striker, Double Strike, and Disperse Bloodlust, and pumps out some big numbers, but does not pull aggro. And another combo of that is with your tank. A way that you can do it is starting each battle with aggro, even boosting aggro generated with arts, and then again you want to get that shorten attack. So all of these are actual aggro gems, right? So starting with aggro, boosting aggro generated, and then more hits you do, the more aggro you get. And again, same with the healer. You probably want to put on that. Not as important on a healer earlier game when you don't have as many skills. This will be probably quite valuable because you do actually pull aggro quite early on as a healer, I remember, because they have a lot of AoE healing. But then it comes to accessories. So accessories are really important as well. Now, you can go full tilt and just put attack, crit percentage, all that good stuff on there if you want, and you know you'll do some damage. So you know you'll pump out the damage, you'll more than likely pull aggro, but it's going to be more valuable to you if you use at least one that's like this: reduces aggro generated from auto attacks, or boost aggro reduction by 60% when targeted by an enemy. So if you do pull aggro, same with this, reduce aggro towards self by 5% when you auto attack, and that sort of thing. So using some of these are going to be really helpful. On a tank, what you would want to use as well, there are some accessories there that will allow you to generate aggro. So you can kind of see there, like Xenoblade 2. You know, accrues aggro every second, that sort of thing. Boost aggro generated from auto attacks. Even this one can be quite handy if you've got a tank that's dying a lot. When incapacitated, aggro does not reset, but remains at 60%. So aggro is going to be really important. Playing on normal or easy, if your damage pulls off like the monster, you know, you're probably going to take a few more hits before you die. On hard mode, if you pull aggro off on a unique, you're going to go down really quickly. And yeah, so managing it is going to be really important. Same with early game with the healers. They do actually have very specific very specific ones like these as well. Where are they? Did I go past it? Yeah, reduces aggro generated from healing arts, that sort of thing. I believe there are some skills as well, and you do get the skills from the other classes as well. I don't know if they actually do have them, but yeah, so like Ninja Healer, this is the one. So reduces aggro generated by healing arts, that sort of thing's really valuable too. So I know it sounds weird to be like, use your skills, use your gems, and use your accessories, but sometimes you just don't think about it. And because this is a single player non-MMO game, sometimes you won't think about it in a party setting where like you do actually have to optimize to actually survive. And again, if this isn't what you're interested in and you don't really like this sort of thing and you just want to play it, then you can always just switch it to a different setting and play to whatever you enjoy, you know. But for me, I love the fact that I have to optimize what gems I'm using, what arts I'm using, that sort of thing. So, and as the game goes on and the unique monsters get harder, it's being a lot more fun too. So definitely give it a crack, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, on to the next tip. Throw rocks. Yep, throw rocks. It sounds silly, I know. It sounds silly, I know. But it is an incredibly valuable tool that you have at your disposal. Say I wanted to pull that. If I was the same level, all of these would aggro me. And sometimes having aggro on more than one thing can kill you early on because you don't have the tools yet to actually deal with it or survive. You know, especially if you haven't got interlinking yet, it can be quite tough. So, all you gotta do is get in range. Get in range. Press up on the directional pad and it'll pull the mob to you. It's good at getting monsters away from the pack. It's good at, yeah, and that's essentially what it is. It's if there's a monster that you want to fight or need to kill and it's in the middle of other monsters that are patrolling or in its vicinity, you're going to want to try and pull it out because it can chain off real quick. So even 1 or 2 more monsters, even the normal ones, if they're the same level as you and you don't have like good reactions, it can be quite bad. Another thing that I will show you quickly is focus attacks. Really important if you're fighting monsters on hard mode and a group of like say 5 soldiers attacks you and everyone's split. The faster you kill down each individual, the better. So I always put on focus attacks and then nuke down the healer, then the, you know, damage dealers, and then finally the tank. And it purely came from not doing it and just getting washed a whole bunch, and then I found that my battles were going so much smoother after I started using that just one button is fantastic. So definitely give that a crack as well. All right, so the final tip I have for you today, Nopon traders. Yep, honestly, for the first half of my time playing, I would just completely ignore the Nopon traders because, ooh, rarity. Ooh, that's white rarity. I don't want to touch that. I only want yellows and purples. Well, when I actually stopped to actually look at what they were selling, I was like, wait a minute. 25% of what? And then I would go back and I would check and I'm like, wait, mine only does like 22 or something like that. So what I was finding was that these Nopon traders are actually, even though the rarity is low, the items that they sell are actually better. And you can see I have no issues with money. I've not bought hardly anything throughout the game because the game auto sells and does all that good stuff. So, you know, I can afford to buy all of this stuff if I want to. You know, and this is you know, this is one from further on in the game, but I just wanted to show you. Yeah, it's pretty good. This is definitely better than what I have for some of them, and I haven't actually bought any yet, so I do need to do that. But I kind of just wanted to point it out that this is going to be really valuable. So don't let rarity or anything like that stop you from looking at what these traders are selling, because a lot of the time they're actually going to be better. And I think that we're conditioned as gamers to see the shiniest thing and be like, that's obviously the better thing, when actually in this case, I mean, there will be higher rarity versions of this that you'll get further on in the game, but for now, this stuff's actually better than the ones that I've had, you know, especially something like that. You know, up until this point, I think I've got 40s or 45s or something like that, so having a 50% is crazy, and this is bought from a vendor. But again, we're conditioned that loot that drops is always better, and if it's not the shiniest color, it's crap. So definitely have a look at these and actually compare them to what you're using, and if it's better, use it. It'll save your life. And it took me way too long to figure out. Alright, so thank you for coming on this tips and tricks journey with me. It's the first guide video I've ever made. For any game, really. Normally I just do gameplays, but I really wanted to put these out there because they all made the game a lot easier for me playing on the hard mode. And I know that eventually they're probably going to bring out that darkness mode that they've had on the other games that was just impossible, and maybe I'll figure out how to play that then too. But I guess I do have one bonus tip for you. And that's, if you're not having fun playing on hard mode, then switch it. Lower it. If you're not enjoying having a 30-minute boss fight and then dying right at the end, because that's happened to me quite a few times, and you get angry sometimes, especially if it's not your fault or it doesn't feel like it's your fault. But, you know, if that's not fun for you, don't do it just because you think that, you know, if you're not playing it on hard mode, then you're not playing the game properly or whatever. You know, they call it normal mode for for a reason, because that's the way that they program the game to be played initially. Or easy if you're more keen on the story and you're not enjoying the combat as much, then don't play it on hard, because you're going to be doing a lot more combat than story. I love hard mode. I think it's awesome. I love the challenge of trying to beat some of these monsters. It reminds me of like old World of Warcraft days where you would just throw yourself against monsters and bosses for a while until you worked out a strategy. And that's what's been fun for me. So I'm going to keep playing it on hard mode until the very end. But yeah, if you're not enjoying it, don't do it. Simple as. But you know, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've got something out of this video. If you've got any tips or tricks that you think would be valuable that I might have missed, or you disagree with anything that I've said, you know, please drop it into the comments and we can have a nice chat about it. Otherwise, you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe.